Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new podcast of Furt'Her. In this podcast, we elevate the voice of women in the space of blockchain and AI. And today we have the pleasure to host Shermin. Shermin is here with us. She founded Token Kitchen and she's the author of the Token Economy book. And I'm very pleased and very excited to ask Shermin about her journey in the blockchain industry. She also founded the Blockchain Hub in Berlin, where she gathered different researchers and they they deep dive into the topic. So, Shermin, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear about you. Can you give us a little bit about your background and let us know what got you interested into this space?
Yeah, it was 2014 or 15. I was at the party in Berlin. Back then, I lived in Berlin, and a friend of a friend talked to me and said something blockchain, and I'm like, "What's blockchain?" And then he said, "Yeah, it's like this technology behind Bitcoin." And I didn't know at the time what Bitcoin was in detail. I had heard the name. But I didn't know more than some digital currency something. And I don't know, it was a party, so you're in a different mood, but something got me intrigued. And it was a Saturday night. I went home, woke up at Sunday morning, and it was a hot August day. Everybody was going to the lakes. And I was like, what did he say? What was the name of this technology? And I didn't remember. The only thing I remembered was, I mean, how do you remember the word blockchain, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, um, technology Bitcoin. So I put this, I researched this online, and I was still lying in bed, and there was literally no information. There were GitHub pages. It was 2015. GitHub pages. There was a few videos, like 5 videos or 10 videos of people saying something about blockchain, and I listened into it, and I'm like, it resonated with me somehow
Okay.
extremely. And I just remember hours later, when everybody was already gone to the lakes and came back, I was still kind of in bed trying to figure this out. And that was it. Like within a week, because there was no information. There was no website on that was not technical. You had like the Bitcoin landing page. You had the more Reddits and subreddits on Bitcoin. Everything was very technical. You had the GitHubs, but for non-technical people or semi-technical people, there was no information out there.
And
So I
you,
started
yeah.
immediately. I registered the domain blockchainhub.net and registered a knowledge website where I disseminated all the information out there. First, it was like the Tumblr style, like
Yes.
reposting in website format other people's content. And I started organizing the first meetups. And so in the end, within half a year, it was like this mini think tank. And the website then became an educational website, all things blockchain. And from the beginning, it was interdisciplinary. So the idea was like, okay, it's a technology, but what does it do for society? And even though I didn't like mentally grasp it in the beginning yet. Like my intuition was, okay, this is like a governance technology. This is something that will reshape how we do economics and politics and governance. And I need to understand it better. And as I was learning, I was sharing the information online, and soon other people came and helped me with the information research and dissemination. And yeah, blockchain was a hub, was a mini think tank and educational hub. And out of that, I started this journey of writing the book of token economy.
And just for out of curiosity, what background do you have? Like, do you have a technical background or not?
Yeah, I studied business administration in Vienna,
Okay.
but we needed to focus I specialized within that on IT management. That was called the specialization. So with that, so learning certain like basic programming skills, etc. So I always had an interest in more technical stuff, and that was the early 90s when, we were still like hand programming websites. And
Okay.
this is when I got into tech. I was never like a techie in the sense of a programmer, but I had the most basic system architecture skills and you know, understand a bit of computing architecture. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you mentioned with the Blockchain Hub Berlin, you had this
Yeah.
think tank where you were diving into the research of the technology and how the impact could be on as a governance tool. And then
Yes.
you had all these resources that you were building, these learnings that you were making, and you had this idea to write the book, the token economy book.
Well, the book came later. You have to think, 2015 in Berlin, it was still the people who were building the Ethereum protocol. Like I then rented a desk in the Ethereum office. So my co-working space was in the Ethereum office, and nobody knew Ethereum because it had just launched. Um, um, After like the network was just deployed when I moved in there, and so when back in 2015, when you went to meetups in Berlin, it's like Vitalik was there and Gavin Wood was there, and all the people who started building these first protocols, IPFS, etc. These people were there, and it was like still a very place a lot of techies, but also like other type of very renegade thinkers who could understand things before most people. They were like, okay, what's that? And it was a very exciting time, but we lacked the words to describe what was
Yeah,
happening. You're already the next second or third next
yeah,
generation to us, so you already grew up with books
yes,
like mine, like Token Economy. There was no book. I think there was the Andreas Antonopoulos book already out there. It was one of the very, very few books. And I recently went on Amazon. Oh my God, there are so many books now,
yeah.
and websites, of course. But back then there were almost no books, and blockchainhub.net was the first website. It's offline now. But yeah, it was still a very small community where people interested in this next generation web, some very young developers, but also people who were older, like me, like in their 40s, who had seen like the rise of the first generation internet. They had a sensitivity, something is coming, and they were also hopping on the bandwagon. And and we were in these meetups, we were trying to find, and on crypto Twitter, back then crypto Twitter was very big, we were trying to figure out collectively what this new thing is and what we can
Yeah.
do with it. And as we were figuring it out, I was writing blog posts together with the people who were working with me. And out of this blog post, we did the first blockchain handbook. And out of this blockchain handbook, eventually, when I went to Vienna to create the Research Institute for Cryptoeconomics, I realized at that point, okay, it's the tokens. The tokens are the main application, and this is why I called the book Token Economy, because even though it in the beginning, it describes like Web3 infrastructure and the blockchain networks as the backbone. It soon goes on the application layer, looking at tokens as the main application, the different types of tokens
Mhm.
beyond currencies, beyond crypto assets, and the tokens that steer decentralized organizations. Because actually, in my opinion, these tokens are the most interesting tokens. And these, what we call DAOs or nation states or whatever you might want to call it, it's steered by tokens. Like the
Mhm.
governance rules are baked into the tokens. And it's all very abstract, which is why I needed to, and the space matured. And eventually I brought out first edition of the book came out back in 2000. 19, but within a year, I had to update it.
Wow.
In June 2020, Token Economy, the second edition came out because I added chapters, basically because it was so much was happening. And that was before DeFi summer because I wrote it. It came out in June, but then there was DeFi summer, right? So I have like this subchapter in my second edition on DeFi, and now it's like a third of the book
Yeah.
in the third edition, right? And this is why I thought with the second edition that that was it. I wouldn't write a third edition anymore. In end of 2020, I put it online on GitHub for free for those people who couldn't access Amazon, like people in Iran who are sanctioned nowadays, and like they can't go on Amazon and buy it. So I put it online, and I asked the community, I'm not going to write the next edition. You do it. Add code to it, translate it, update it, whatever you want. And you know what happened? Within 2 weeks, I had 30 volunteers who started to translate it into 8 languages. It was
Wow.
crazy, yeah.
Okay.
And it was also, the pandemic winter, you know,
Yeah.
winter of 2020 going into 21. So it was post DeFi summer. Everybody was excited about it and everybody was locked inside. And
Yeah.
I think this and also that combination and apparently the fact that people like the book um, create this dynamic. And I saw then later that I needed to update the book. For me, it was the
Mm.
second edition was still a better version
Yeah.
because as the years progressed and we had more use cases, I also had a better understanding. And for 3 years now, I've been working on this last edition and try to add many, many use cases to make it more tangible and
Mm-hmm.
less abstract. Not what will be, but analyzing use cases that are already and seeing their pros and cons and limitations and what can we learn in token design, the do's and don'ts, for
Yeah.
example.
That's very interesting because indeed I had the opportunity to read and go through your book. And this is something I really appreciated. It's the fact that you're going through the different topics and you present them in an objective way and you structure it by potential limitation, benefits, and pro and cons. So it's very interesting and for someone who is not from the space because it's also a space which is a bubble. So you are in it or you are not. But for the ones who are not in the space, it's a great entry point, I believe. And it's something, and what I like about those kind of books is that you can go to one chapter, then you can go to another chapter, but you don't have to read it from the beginning until the end. Because I've read other books in the industry where you have to read from the beginning until the end. But this one is structured in a way that if you have a doubt about one or question or you would like to go deeper on the topic, you can just go in that chapter and go deeper. And then you're like, okay, now I would like to have a deeper view on something else. And then you go in the other chapter.
I'm really happy to hear that because this was my intention.
Ah, good.
And I didn't realize, even though I have to say, it really, even those, that was my intention, but I wasn't sure if it actually worked. So getting this feedback helps, is really valuable. Though I do have to say, for those people who might want to read the book, even if you don't have a tech background, I wrote, it is specifically written for people who don't need a tech background because I explain the like Web3 technological fundamentals for people who might not have that background. And it's important to understand it because you can build applications without understanding how the infrastructure works. But if it's for there are cryptoeconomic principles. This new web
Yeah.
is an economic web
Yes.
and is value capture on the infrastructure layer. And if you don't understand the value capture mechanisms on the infrastructure layer, I don't think you will be successful long term with your application. So I do think and not only value capture, also questions of identity, privacy. You need to understand that even if you only want to build an application.
No,
So
totally.
good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good to hear that you had that impression. But trying And I think for you, it might have been true because, as far as I understand, you have some background. You're not completely new to it, right?
Yeah, it's not,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but
I
for
know
somebody
what chapter to go. Yeah,
who doesn't have a background,
yes,
um, I think it might be a bit of a different experience. Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. We can ask them to share in the comments. Like, wow, how did you experience the reading of the book? We would be curious to hear because it's true that while you're in the journey of writing the book, it's part of it. You're looking at what's your objective and how do you want to reach your audience. So, for you, how was it in terms of collective support? Did you get like support from others
Oh. A
to,
lot, a lot.
yeah?
I could not have written this book. This is a truly interdisciplinary book, and my mind is multidisciplinary, but
Okay.
I'm not a know-it-all. And I couldn't have written all this without the support of all the people, and if you that I've mentioned also in the acknowledgements of this book, who gave me feedback, especially as I was finishing writing this book. I had moved from Berlin temporarily to Vienna, where I started the Research Institute for Cryptoeconomics, together with another professor, and we were directing this. And the idea was to have an interdisciplinary research institute, and that's kind of based in university, but also rooted in startup. And from a lot of researchers, for example, economists of that university who were part of that research institute, I got a lot of valuable feedback
Mhm.
for example, the monetary policy chapters of the book.
Yeah.
I'm not a deep techie. I don't program smart contracts.
Yeah.
So I got then valuable feedback on smart contract exploits and everything. So I did get a lot of feedback. The quality of the book wouldn't have been that because that was pre-ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And I could have never written that without the valuable input of the people who all had their specializations.
It's
Yes.
great to hear because in the space it feels a bit overwhelming when when you're trying to know everything and you're trying to grasp everything. But it's good to hear also that if you surround yourself with people who has the knowledge and who are like have more expertise in one field or the other, it's
Mhm.
a way to also gather your own opinion and your own expertise and your so it's good to hear that you were surrounded by different profiles in order to give like a deeper and a better understanding of the different topics in your books, and that it's not something that we have to wait alone and to
Yeah.
bring to build alone.
No, no, and this is something I think I learned that from the crypto space back then,
Okay.
because it was so new, and because people had, like, you had the most random people. One of my best friends today, like, I met him at a meetup in Berlin. Like, I'm like, who are you? We're like at a meetup, and at a crypto meetup, like back in 2000, what, 15, 16. So I'm like, yeah, I am like a surgeon. I am a doctor. But I'm interested. I'm a part-time doctor. I'm like, what's a part-time
Yeah.
doctor? He's like, yeah, I don't want to work all the time. And people at hospitals, they're so stuck up. So I only do part-time medicine when other doctors go on holidays. And so I fill the holiday shift, and the rest of the time I can do interesting stuff like blockchain, crypto. And I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
So you would have people like that back then. And but as I said, we didn't know it was Bitcoin, and we were trying to understand, okay, what is this? Because it's a payment network and it's collectively maintained. So how
Yeah.
do you, because people had different backgrounds, they use different words to
Yeah.
describe the same thing. And we needed to discuss online and offline. And people back then, blogging was still a thing. Social media,
Yeah.
we already had social media, but that was 10 years ago. People would still go on Medium and write blog posts or on their own blog and then share it on social networks. Today, you can't do that anymore because the algorithms don't allow you to share from a blog, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a different story. I think we're getting dumber now. But people were then writing blog posts on a I mean, Vitalik was one of the biggest bloggers, but then everybody started publishing their own takes of a specific aspect of this technology or of applications or how you should change this and that. And this is how we learned collectively
Yeah.
over the internet. So we used Web 2
Yes.
systems to figure out Web 3.
Yes.
That was a very exciting time. And that was new to me too
Okay.
because I was also raised in a way like you do your thing and you get your grade for your thing and you get a review for something you did. But back then, people would write blog posts and they would say, thank you, this person, and this person for your feedback. Because it was impossible to write
Yeah.
something meaningful without feedback from someone else. It was just too overwhelming, you know? And that was really exciting.
And this is something that you experience throughout the entire journey, the collective support.
Yes, but I have to say it's over now. Like
This is
the
what I was.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's over now. I mean, I still have the support of my network, um, my original network, but back then anyone would chime in.
Okay.
And now I guess it's a mix of things. The space has matured.
Yeah.
People have already understand the basics. They've already and for those who are new, they can pick up a book. They can go to a dedicated website. They can even ch ask ChatGPT, though I would
Yeah.
be very careful
Yeah.
regarding certain things. Um, and so the collective is not necessary anymore.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is. Yeah, that kind of other people might experience it. I'm not experiencing that too much. But I have to say, the last few years, I isolated here myself, living on a farm in Portugal. So my lifestyle has also become different, and I'm
Yeah.
quite sure that the experience might be very different for other people.
Okay, okay, understood. Okay. Because it's true, it's part of this also mindset of Web3 is community minded.
Mhm.
Governance as well, it's a decentralized governance, but in a collective way. So it's part of the roots. So it's
Mhm.
something, yes, that should continue and pursue.
Mhm.
Um, but it's evolving indeed.
Yeah, it's evolving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's very interesting to hear about you because, as you said, you were there early when Ethereum was founded, while we are here like studying about Ethereum, like getting to know how was it founded. So it's very interesting. And I was on a panel with the director of the movie of following Vitalik for 2 years. And he's backpacking everywhere and trying to develop Ethereum further. And it was very interesting to see his mindset as well on how he's willing to build this solution and drive it kind of non-profit of what I understood. That was the big challenge at the beginning when he had the different partners that some were willing to go for profit and he didn't want to go for profit. So that was
Yeah.
a main point since the beginning. But then space is evolving very fast.
Yeah, I mean the space has evolved. It's become captured by industry, by banks.
Yeah,
I had a similar issue with Blockchain Hub, Blockchain Hub Berlin. I tried to fund it through commissioned work that I got,
yeah,
industry partners who were interested in understanding this technology, but the website was always free. I didn't even have ads on the website. And eventually, Blockchain Hub Berlin, other people contacted me. It's like, hey, I like what you do. Can we do the same thing in Austria? Can we do the same thing in Bulgaria? So eventually, Blockchain Hub became kind of this off-chain DAO.
yes,
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is my mission and my vision. And if you identify with it, I will do a subpage for you and then you can post your stuff there. And for a few years, the website is offline because then the space evolved, etc.
okay,
But for me, education, and this is why I identified very much with that early crypto space around Bitcoin and Ethereum is like information and infrastructure and data must be free.
Yeah.
Not personal data maybe, but information must be free because without access to relevant information, you cannot make a good decision. And infrastructure must be public, and blockchain networks are publicly maintained and publicly used infrastructure networks. And that makes them, and this is a aspect that we don't talk about, and the purpose-driven tokens that steer them. And in the case of Bitcoin network, Bitcoin is not only an asset, and the media always says like, oh, the Bitcoin price went up. And I stopped giving, for years, you can go on my personal website. I gave so many interviews to really big newspapers, everything. And after years, they were still, only they would call me when the Bitcoin price went up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not giving any. If it's about the Bitcoin price, ask somebody else. If you want to know something relevant about Web3, this next generation, if you want to know something about the payment network, that it's collectively maintained, call me. But
Yeah.
if you want to talk about the Bitcoin price, please don't call me. That's not why I got into the space.
Yes.
Now, you have crypto investors and traders who only focus on that topic. They might be interested only in that topic, and that's,
Yeah, part of it.
that's good for them. But this was not why I got into this, right?
Okay.
And I think there is still the story to be told
Yeah.
that both the Bitcoin network, but the Ethereum network and other blockchain networks are public infrastructure networks. They're collectively maintained because you can maintain it, I can maintain it, co-maintained by different people who are incentivized with network tokens to
Yes.
contribute to that network. That can be both on infrastructure layer, like the Bitcoin network or the Ethereum network. You need run a red network node. You do validation services, staking services, whatever, security services for the network, and can be rewarded in network tokens. But you can also build on an application layer, like the use cases I mentioned, for example, in the book, a data exchange protocol or a social network that can be collectively maintained. And then you reward the people who contribute to the social network with social network tokens. But the question, or to the data exchange protocol with network tokens. The question, though, is how do you create these incentive systems
Yeah.
in a sustainable way that it's not a Ponzi scheme where people like join just to get rich quick,
Yeah.
because then it collapses within a few months. And we've seen examples, and I've tried to mention some in the book.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
if you're interested in that, I think
I think that's really something that also fascinates me, and I had looked at a school of token engineering school as well, where they look after the different ways and new business models you could have around tokens to make sure that the project or the new company is sustainable, build on that infrastructure. So it's very interesting, and I would encourage everyone to read the book of Shermin because it's where you will find the understanding of what's coming next with this Web3 generation internet. And I would like to thank you, Shermin, for being our guest today. It was a pleasure
thank you.
to hear about you and to hear about the fascinating start that you had in the industry and to get a glimpse of that and to know a little bit more about your book, the journey, and today sharing with us your expertise and your knowledge. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Maybe one more thing,
Yes.
because you said because we see more and more content like people online talking about AI and this next generation web, this Web3, AI and blockchain networks, they don't exclude themselves.
No,
And
true.
this is also something what I write about in the book. So
It is.
if you're this is also something you will find there, and there is probably a whole book to be written about just the intersection of blockchain and the AI and the physical web also. Yes.
It's true. I gave a keynote about blockchain and AI 2 weeks ago, And there are many things that we can tackle. It's incredible. And if they embed it together and in the best of the ways, because there's also some challenge to look after, it will shape the next internet. Indeed. It's very fascinating. But I encourage everyone also to read your book and to give us
Thank you.
comments below the video. Thank you very much, Shermin,
Thank
for your
you.
time, and to everyone, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.